Welcome to the Food Professor Podcast, presented by Caddle, Season 6, Episode 8. I'm Michael LeBlanc.
Hey, and I'm the Food Professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Our guest in this episode is Stephen Mitchell, President, Sales and Marketing for Vineyard Operations for Sprucewood Shores Estates, Lake Erie North Shore Winery. It's the third of the three big wine regions in Ontario. I recorded this in the spring at the Ontario Craft Wineries Conference. This is one of the last ones that I did on my own back then, and I thought it was appropriate to bring it back, both for, now is the time. We're picking wines. We've been talking about wine, and and it was a good time to get it to air and talk about, you hear that hands-on kind of operating a winery with this incredible, we've been talking about it, an incredible tailwind. And to your point, I loved your point last episode. Let's see if the wineries can make something of it, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I don't know if they have had a good season. I assume that they did get a good season, which is great. And but I'm looking forward to listen to your interview for sure. But I do think that the wine industry will do well this year, and will take advantage of the anti-American sentiment. I've been in America for the last couple of weeks, and a lot of Americans are wondering what's going on in Canada for sure when it comes to alcohol. And I said, well, I mean, it's an opportunity for a lot of our own wineries to, to get in front of Canadian consumers. And I think at some point we're going to move on from the anti-American movement, I think. But hopefully the Canadian wine industry will actually be in a better position and innovate even more.
Well, as I've long said, this won't go on forever. Nothing goes on forever, but it will be that broomstick in the bicycle spoke of consumer habits, right? Like myself, many people hadn't tried these wines. They've discovered a new wine. They've formed a new habit. That's one of the hardest things to do in packaged goods marketing. And it's interesting, you and I talked about the impact on the alcohol and wine business in America earlier on in the year last season. And they're starting to kind of put out numbers. I've seen there's an article in, I think it was New York Times, Wall Street Journal. California is just being decimated. And, Canada is the number one source. They're ripping up vines. Now, there's other things going on. There's a movement, so to speak, or the trend is to consuming less alcohol to begin with. But we certainly, our choices certainly have not made it any easier. And they describe it as collateral damage. But we're going to do what we're going to do. So anyway, it's a great chance to try wines. Not that I can still buy a beautiful bottle of Okanagan wine on the shelves in Ontario. Let's not go there because, hey, what happened to that getting rid of the barrier?
I personally think there are great wines in Ontario.
There are.
Honestly, it's getting better. It's improving.
100%. I mean, it's 20, 30 years in, and there's great wines, though, in Nova Scotia. There's great wines in the Okanagan, great BC wines.
Well, there's great wines in Nova Scotia, but nobody knows about them in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
Doug Ford.
Hey, you sound a bit different. You look a bit different for those of us checking us out on YouTube. Where are we finding you today?
I'm in West Lafayette, Indiana, the home of Purdue University. Yes. Right. I've been here since yesterday, and to be honest, it's a beautiful campus. I mean, I'm actually in a hotel owned and run by students.
School of Hospitality, right?
The hospitality school actually runs this, and I must say, like last week, I was at a very nice hotel in New Orleans. I won't tell you which one, but a very nice hotel, 5 stars. And to be honest, the service here is incredible. The only difference, which is kind of cute, is that a lot of employees are nervous. Like they greet you, and when they actually, last time we had dinner, I had dinner with some faculty members right here and some students, and the server was actually quite nervous because, as you know, I never pick off the menu. I asked the server to pick for me, right? Oh my goodness. I shouldn't have done that. I should not have done that. She was incredibly nervous. Oh my God. What if I pick something you don't like?
Am I being graded on this?
Yeah,
Will this affect my GPA? If I bring him the wrong food? He's with all my professors.
But it was
Hey,
kind of cute, and
yeah,
of course, a lot of profs were around the table. So, no, don't worry about it. He's like that. Like he's an asshole,
he's he's like that.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
since we're talking about America, and if you're in Indiana, the heart of farmland, I've been seeing. We talked about last episode that the farming community is really, is really taking it in the teeth. Farmageddon. I mean, we can certainly commiserate with them, with China making big pivots away from soybeans. I mean, now you and I were talking about it for months. Now the media's picked up on it. What's the tone in America? Are they saying, this is just what we need to do to reset the global economy? Are they happy, mad, indifferent? What's going on?
It's not good. They're beyond mad. I was actually having coffee with the CEO of a farmer co-op. He represents about 20,000 farmers right here in Indiana, and he is not happy at all. I mean, Trump has a problem, and clearly, I mean, and it's his base. As you know, not all farmers, but many of them actually have voted for him. And so they feel that they're being left out here with what's going on with China, of course. I mean, they sold millions of tons of soybeans last year. This year, it's zero, not 10, not 20, zero.
And I heard they had a good crop, right? And they had a good crop this year.
They have a lot of product to sell, and so and you cannot replace China. You just can't replace China, and so
we know that
this is a problem for and China, of course, is smart because and what was really interesting this afternoon when I was speaking, there were Brazilians in the room, and of course, Brazil is taking advantage of what's going on between the United States and China, because Brazil is selling the stock that China needs that's not buying from the U.S. So, yeah, a lot of farmers prices are very low. There's lots of inventory. They can't move. Costs are going up. It's not great. So farmers are expecting a bailout of $15 billion. With the government shutdown right now, it's hard to actually get any attention. Okay. And yesterday, as you know, President Trump met with the president of Argentina and committed to a $20 billion package. So that made them even more upset, because here we have a president taking care of another foreign country, but he is not taking care of his own farmers. So farmers are absolutely livid. They're very, very upset with the president right now.
It's interesting to talk about increasing costs, because, these steel and aluminum reset tariffs, that's going to affect farm equipment. And I was reading one interview with a farmer who said, listen, the bailout is fine, so to speak, but it doesn't get me out of a hole. It just keeps me, my head above water. And I was looking forward to a good year, because, as a farmer, you have good years and not so good years. And so there's a lot of optimism.
I got to tell you, last night we had a fifth generation farmer around the table. He was almost crying. It was. This is bad, Michael. I mean, this is beyond. But it's very emotional right now for a lot of farmers. So I hope that President Trump will actually pay attention to what's going on in the Midwest, because a lot of farmers are hurting out there, and we need farmers. We need farmers. We need farmers that make money, and we need farmers to survive.
Yeah, and they don't make money every year. So when they were looking forward to actually having a good crop this year at a good rate, and the American farmers have worked so hard to develop that market with China. I mean, it's not like they haven't been. Not like Brazil's a new competitor, right? They've done great work and building that over probably decades. So anyway, let's pivot off that and talk about canola and China and EVs. So you put out an op-ed. We've been talking about it for months and months and months, but it's pretty clear. And China being savvy, last week they had a dust up with the Americans, right? They said, critical special minerals, we're going to woe those back. Trump said, I'm going to tag you with the big tariffs, and then lo and behold, China puts up its hand and said, "Hey, Canada, if you want out from under this bus, just take the tariffs off of EVs." Now, you think it is time to do that?
I've never heard China being so explicit about a diplomatic predicament. Honestly, China doesn't work that way. But to them, it's pretty clear what the solution is. And so I honestly, when I saw that, I thought, wow, this is pretty clear. And so will Ottawa take the bait? Will Ottawa actually move forward and do something? I mean, I have to appreciate Prime Minister Carney's dilemma. I mean, it's a pretty tough dilemma. I wouldn't even know what to do if I were him. I mean, what's your take on this? You're in Ontario. You don't care about canola. You care about cars, right?
I care a lot about canola, actually. I care about our farmers. Well, I was thinking, I was reading your op-ed, and I was like, part of me, and I've talked about this before, is the reason we did the EVs is to some degree about protecting a future market, but the other was to be on side with the Americans, right? So the American ambassador said, thank you for doing it. So you know what I did? I reached out to Mark Warner, our previous guest on the show.
Yes.
Trade lawyer. And I said,
That's
Mark,
a good idea.
Well, I reached out to him and I asked him a couple of quick questions. I said, first of all, I'm worried that if we drop the EV tariffs, the Americans would react quite negatively. And I said, isn't there some kind of clause in the USMCA where we have to consult with them on that? And he said there is a clause, 32.10, but it's more subtle than that. It's basically, if we're going to sign a free trade agreement with anyone, we have to consult with our CUSMA partners. So in his opinion,
come up from time to time.
Yeah. In his opinion, and by the way, if you don't give them 30 days notice, they can actually terminate CUSMA. So it's actually, with 6 months notice. So it's a big deal. But in his opinion, lifting the Chinese EV tariff doesn't fall into that section, right? It doesn't apply. I said, okay, that's good.
So they could do it. So Canada could do it unilaterally.
They could do it unilaterally and not tripwire that. But I said, but on the whole, what do you think about, the Americans' retribution for doing that? And he said two very, very interesting things. One was, and this was echoing the who was it? One of the guys from the Trump administration basically was presenting last week, and he said, we're taking back the auto industry. And, this is an administration, when they say these things, you should believe them. So,
wasn't it Howard Lutnick?
It was Lutnick. He said, listen, we're taking it back. There's going to be no more cars made in Ontario at some point or in Canada. Now, this all separate side conversation about why they're made here, because the North American car market was built this way to compete against the Europeans and Japanese and whoever. But anyway, the Koreans. But anyway, let's set that aside. So, if the Trump administration is going to destroy the automobile industry in North America, that could happen because basically moving everything into, it could be like the farm industry.
He appears to be doing a pretty good job at that right now. Yeah.
Well, it could be, it could be another.
And I do have sympathy for the car industry for sure. I'm not a car person. I'm not a car industry expert, but I do feel for the car industry because it's very painful what they're going through right now.
Well, Stellantis just made a big decision to pull back on a plant here in Canada. When the plants go away, the parts go away. But how
many companies have actually walked away from Canada in the last year?
Well, it's a great question. His perspective is, listen, we're already on what he described as we're already on DEFCON 1. I mean, there's a school of thought that this is going to happen anyway, no matter what we do with these EV tariffs with China. His interesting point, and it is actually Pierre Poilievre made the same thing, we've got to get more aligned with rules around surveillance and make sure that we're aligned with the Americans on these EVs, that we don't have a bunch of, Chinese cars moving around the country that are surveillance devices, basically. And that's a big deal for...
Well, it comes up a lot. I actually did get. It's funny. In reaction to my op-ed, I did get a lot of that, and amongst some really nasty comments. To be honest, most of them from Ontario. FYI, a lot of people are passionate about this, and they made it a security issue. Of course, a national security issue, and which is brilliant. Of course, to me, it's always been about farmers. It's about making sure that the canola industry is preserved and protected as much as possible, because it's always been undermined by Ottawa. since 2018 with the Huawei incident. And so at some point, somebody's going to have to pay attention to that. So that's my perspective. And to me, China has offered Canada a very, very easy, quick fix to I would say complicated problem. Of course, that will actually result into dealing with more problems with the United States. But let's face it. I mean, at some point, we're going to have to start judging partners and start dealing with them. I'm going to be pretty blunt with you, Michael, right now. What I see between China and the U.S., I see China, a country which wants to trade, and I see the U.S., a country that doesn't want to trade as much as before. So, I mean, I think our conversation around trading with different major economies around the world has changed. And if not, we need to change our approach.
Well, I thought the whole connected device, connected vehicles was a bit of a red herring, but Mark is a very sober individual in terms of thinking this through. He's not, we've had him on the podcast, and he said, listen, a legitimate issue, get that sorted out with the Americans. They're going to take back the auto industry anyway. I'm paraphrasing here. Mark, if you're listening, by all means, comment a bit differently. But basically, nobody's... And
the AV sector in Canada is a house of cards.
Oh, it's collapsing everywhere.
Apart.
It's collapsing everywhere.
It's collapsing everywhere.
So anyway, my mind has been turned over the months about, well, let's just do this anyway, because not that we're going to give up on the
So you would pull the tariffs?
I would.
Really?
I would. I was not a fan of that.
I'm
thought
surprised.
The Americans
I actually thought we would disagree on this one.
My initial reaction to your article was like, I think the retribution for the Americans would be worse. The cure would be worse than the disease, or disease worse than the cure. But the more I think about it, consulting experts like Mark and listening to your rationale, I think that we're at a point where...
I think Mark Warner should be our prime minister. That's what I think.
All right, there you go, Mark. Throw your hat in. He ran for election, right? He ran for
our Canadian ambassador to China. How's that?
Well, let's stick with international trade. So we're getting some good positive signals and some action from the Carney government. Mr. Anand was over in India, and looks like we've gone from not even having ambassadors together or high commissioners to now, after a G7 pull aside, we're now looking like we're going to reestablish better relations, and of course trade will follow, and then there's some caveats there around political interference. But we've long said on this podcast, and right now the Indians aren't too happy with the Americans either, that India can take a lot of our ag. How optimistic are you that let's say that the diplomatic issues get sorted out, that India can be a great resource trading partner to take much of our ag product? What's your level of optimism on that?
I mean, when you think of, when it comes to ag, India is not even in the top 20, in our top 20 of trading partners, and it's 1.4 billion people. How can that be? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So to see Mr. Anand making some effort, seeing the government making some effort to create this bridge between India and Canada is incredible good news. I mean, that's what you want. You want to see that more and more. So, I feel confident. I mean, the Trudeau era was just terrible. And I'm happy.
Well, to be fair, the Indian government did their own share of stuff too, right? But
But you don't have the leader of a G20 country accusing another country of murder. I mean, outright like that in public. I mean, you just can't. You get a minister to say that, get someone to say that, but don't. As a prime minister, you just don't do what former Prime Minister Trudeau did. Like, can you imagine? If Trump said it, nobody cared. Nobody would care because he says anything. He says ridiculous things. But coming from Justin Trudeau made a huge impact on India and the prime minister there. So it was just not the right
Katy
call.
Perry
Even though it was enough evidence.
I guess Katy Perry liked it, though. She liked his cut of his jib, apparently.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
good
don't
for
know.
him. Everybody's like he's a midlife crisis. I mean, it's not a midlife crisis.
Maybe
He's
they're
dating
dating in
somebody.
an Indian restaurant.
Well, good for him.
And
There's a
by the
long.
way, listen, I'm happy for Justin. I'm happy for Katie.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of either, but still, love is love, and we need more love in this world. So
we need more
go.
love than less, and there's a great legacy in the Trudeau family of dating celebrities, right? So there you go.
Yeah,
carrying on.
Exactly. And frankly, I'd rather see a story like that in the news than President Trump saying ridiculous things again.
You know what? As far as our last prime minister goes, this is about as much about in the news as I want him to be. That's just how's your dating life.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm kind of done with that fella. All right,
like
let's
father, like son, huh?
Like father, like son. Let's just before we get to our great interview of Steve Mitchell, and then we've got lots more coming up after the interview. I wanted to just stay in the political realm. There's been talk, NDP Avi Lewis talks about a government-operated grocery stores. Now, this is also something that, what's his name, who's running for the mayor of New York City, Mondami, is talking about these government-run grocery stores. Now, on the one hand, we have government-run liquor stores, and they make the taxpayer a lot of money. So where do you sit on this?
It's a monopoly.
Well,
it's a monopoly.
On the other hand, I kind of don't mind the government trying to run one.
You can't buy booze from anywhere else.
Well,
of course they're going to make money.
I kind of don't mind the fact that a government would run it, because then they'd find out how hard it is to be a grocer, and then they'd have some like, oh my God, this is really hard. I'm going to stop saying nonsense about the grocery.
Are they going to shut up? Is that your plan?
I would go.
You're going to make a lot of socialists shut up. I see your plan. It's a good plan. Yeah.
Well, anyway, there is a legitimate
$500 million later, sure.
Another crown corporation. But I mean, in and all this, there are. I guess the rationale is there are. I don't know if the rationale is that they being government-run stores would control food inflation better, because of course they won't. But is it that they're trying to fill in food deserts or area where there's grocery stores are harder to find? What's the rationale behind this, and do you think there's any purchase on the cliff for this one?
There's good policy, there's bad policy, there's terrible policy, and there's stupid policy. That would fall under stupid policy for
top right hand quadrant. All right,
for sure. Why? Because while we've seen cases in Kansas and other places where it failed, St. Paul's actually has a government-run grocery store, but it's losing money. It's heavily subsidized by the government, and so if you want to subsidize, but I mean, let's be honest. The Regina Food Bank has a grocery store that's heavily subsidized. It's a food bank. You walk in, you qualify, you grab what you want. They humanize the whole aspect of food banking, essentially. That's kind of what we're talking about here. Instead, the only difference that you would actually pay at cost, and anybody could qualify. But at the end of the day, what I don't like about this policy is that you're basically ending up shortchanging the entire food industry and forcing or inviting people to think, you know what, the hard work being done across the food industry is worthless. It's worth nothing. Okay, you're supposed to be. It is your right to pay costs because the food industry should be serving you. And to me, that's just the wrong message. If you want to appreciate what farmers are doing, what restaurant operators are doing, what processors are doing, distributors, retailers, everyone, we need to actually allow the market forces to prevail and let consumers decide for themselves. And that's how you actually build a stronger food industry. To me, it would basically fail eventually because food distribution in Canada is incredibly hard and very costly. And so people will end up seeing that, the prices you see in those stores are pretty similar and probably higher than in different stores like No Frills, Freshco, and places like that.
Well, it feels, though, like it's one of those things that on the surface will attract some attention from a community of people who goes, yeah, that's the answer. but
Yeah.
really it's no answer at all, right? I mean, it's really just, as you say, the food banks. The food banks are doing a great job of basically running.
It's a false good idea. It's a false good idea.
All right, so today is World Food Day, and you've got a report coming out, the Global Agri-Food Most Influential Nations ranking. Canada moved up the rankings. Tell us about this report, and tell us about it's being released today, and tell us all about your discovery. You seem less than thrilled that we're moving up the rankings, even though it looked like a good story to me. But talk about the report. What's World Food Day all about? Share.
No, it's good news, of course. We're seeing Canada move up four notches to number 7, but we're still a second tier country. So this whole idea of this ranking is to basically assess how Canada is doing versus other G20 countries on a variety of different issues: investments, food safety, food security, education, traceability, innovation. I mean, we actually look at, I believe, over 40 different metrics, and it actually blew up. So we had our first edition last year, our second edition. So every edition will actually add or subtract certain metrics, and this year we actually added way more. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Canada did better than last year when looking at similar metrics. It's just with new metrics, it's ranking better. So that's really what happened there. And,
give me an example of one of those new metrics. Give me an example of a new metric that's in the report.
So we looked at food tech investments. That's one thing, and what we did discover is that Canada is very good at launching new food techs. It's not very good at keeping them or scaling them up. Okay, so those were different metrics. So, okay, are we starting new companies? Great. Are we keeping them? Are we allowing them to scale up? That's a big blind spot for Canada. The other thing that we actually notice is infrastructure. I mean, there's some huge problems with our infrastructure when you think about railroads, supply chain resiliency, ports as well. That brought down. I'm only talking about negatives because we do well with food security. We do very well with food safety in Canada. We don't do so well in education per se. I mean, that's why recruitment is so difficult. And the other thing, of course, is grocery concentration. I mean, we have talked about grocery concentration and grocery consolidation, but when you compare Canada to other G20 countries, we have the most consolidated grocery industry amongst G7 countries, amongst G20 countries. So it is a problem. I mean, is there more competition? Could we benefit from more competition? Of course we could. But I've always believed that Ottawa is tackling this issue the wrong way. You just want to enable conditions in order for competition to rise, and not just pick up the phone and call people and say, come to Canada and write a check to encourage them to come. That's not the way you're going to increase competition. But it is an issue for sure in Canada. And the other thing that we've noticed is that Canada is very good at investing in the agri-food sector publicly, not privately. Private funds are not there compared to other countries. And so the government is there. We often criticize the government for not investing. It is investing compared to other G20 countries, but privately, the money is not all that there, unfortunately. And on biodiversity, again, that's one other area where we could improve. And frankly, on that, the tone is set by Europe. If you notice, the number one country, it's not a country, it's actually it's the European Union that ranks first. In the top 3, of course, there's Germany and the United States. They're very influential in their policy, and if Canada aspires to be in the top tier next time, I think they need to start looking at Europe, which is actually quite timely because we're looking at diversifying our trades with the rest of the world. And I think I don't see how you can avoid Europe, to be honest. But Europe is a difficult
market
region to deal with because they have they have different restrictions for sure.
Yep. It's no cakewalk. It's not suddenly we're going to take over Europe just because we decide to do it. It could take many, many years to develop new markets.
But I think it's a great report. It's actually 57 pages long. It's available in both French and English. And of course, our partner, MNP, a great partner. It's been a wonderful project to work on with MNP. MNP is a top consulting firm, very well known in the agri-food sector across the country. They came up with the idea a few years ago, and they approached us, and since then it's been just great. Yeah, so this is our second edition, and our next edition will be out next year.
Well, fantastic. Well, we'll put a link in the show notes to that. I've had a quick read through, and super interesting. Super interesting read through, kind of helps.
Yeah, they actually set up a website. Huh? You can it's an interactive website. You can actually click some icons and look at how countries rank, and it's great. I would say that the audience, the preferred audience for this report is really industry and policy makers, not necessarily consumers. But if you're into policy, if you love food policy, this is a report for you. But I suspect that a lot of people in the industry will actually read the report.
All right, let's take a break now. Let's hear first of all from our great sponsors, Caddle, and then let's get into our interview with Steve Mitchell and talk about Ontario craft wine. Need fast, reliable Canadian shopper insights? Meet Rapid Response, Caddle's most popular survey tool. In just 5 questions, you can reach any audience in Canada, French, English, or both, with results delivered in as little as 5 business days. Whether you've got a big retailer meeting coming up or need quick, credible data to guide decisions, Rapid Response gives you expert research and a powerful Excel-based dashboard, all for just $2,500, with subscription options that can save you even more. As a listener of the Food Professor podcast, your first Rapid Response is free. Just email at insights@caddle.ca and mention the Food Professor. That's insights@caddle.ca. Welcome to the Food Professor podcast, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm here at the OCW conference, having a good time and learning lots today.
The OCW, Ontario Craft Wineries Conference here in beautiful Niagara Falls. I've had a lot of great interviews here, and I have a confession to make. Where's your winery? Where's your winery located? In Lake Erie area, right?
Lake Erie North Shore, what it's called. Lake Erie is a long lake, and it goes all the way from Niagara, where we are right now, all the way down to the Windsor region, over to Ohio, etc. So we're located Ontario's most southernmost point, and that would be, for those that are familiar with Windsor, the city of Windsor, just south of there. We're located in a town called Amherstburg. There's a peninsula all the way around our region, and most of the wineries, there's about 18 in our region right now, they're all clustered along the lakefront.
So my confession is, so I live in Mississauga, frequently come to Niagara, discovered a couple of years ago Prince Edward County, never been to the Lake Erie.
I think it's time to come.
It's time. I was with my wife last night, of course, so we were talking about what I was going to be doing today, and I go, we want to do something different this summer. We got to go. We stay a couple of days and explore a whole new winery. Just fantastic.
With 18 wineries, there's plenty of places to take a look at, and it's a good, as a food professor, we're a good agricultural area.
Leamington, close to Leamington, and all those areas, fantastic. So, tell me a bit about yourself, your background, how you got into this business.
Interesting that I didn't start in any way, shape, or form with wine. I, as a young fellow, drank only beer, and the connection came from my parents and where they came from. They're both originally from Essex County. My father was from the middle of Essex County. He was a farm boy growing up in a town called Woodsley, and my mother was an immigrant from Lebanon, and she moved to Windsor, Ontario. That's where they grew up. And basically, my dad had this farming roots in his blood. He ended up working for Chrysler, became a manager of a plant up in a town called Pickering, more this way.
Yeah.
And he always had it in him that he wanted to be farming still. So at one point along the way, my parents had purchased a property with the intent to move there and to get the family started. Get a farm started, but have our family raised on a farm so that those farm living that he experienced, he could continue to enjoy and he could, share with us. Well, as it were, my dad had some success working with Chrysler. They promoted him a lot, and that brought us to Pickering. So we always had this farm. And at one point, my dad said,
which is a different part of Ontario, actually fairly far.
Right. We're well known for our nuclear power plant and dump, I believe, in Pickering. Those are two claims to fame.
Yes.
We had this property, and my dad, when he was ready to retire, wanted to do something. And so, I should probably back it up a bit. My dad had still wanted to do something all along. Right. And he wanted to get back to that farming roots. And so at some point on his
career and moved on. And yeah, sure.
But what he wanted to do was he wanted to plant something. And there were a number of wineries, most notably Peely and Colio, in our region that were starting to plant. And so he said, I want to start a vineyard in our region. It'd be giving me something to do, a nice project. It would be farming. And so he started a vineyard. We ended up planting 28 acres as a hobby farm. So, which of course is 4 hours from where he lived. So you can imagine every weekend the family get packed up in the van.
Pretty intensive hobby, yeah.
We'd head all the way down the 401 and way to go.
That's commitment.
Yeah, but my parents were not lazy people. They were always motivated to be doing something, and this was something my dad wanted to do. So now, fast forward to when my dad was ready to retire, and he decided that he still wanted to have a little project to work on, and maybe that little project could be a winery. So he invited the family one day at dinner, sat us all down, and said, this is what your mother and I are thinking of doing. And, my sister right away jumped on and said, I want to be the winemaker. Huh. So, she'd been going actually to school in McMaster here in Niagara region in Hamilton. And so she was able to start working with a few wineries in the area, get a little experience.
Yep.
And, I took on our sales roles, what I said I would end up doing. And a few years later, when the winery got started in 2006, we all moved down there. And, I still worked for a couple of years in the automotive industry where I originated from. But my sister got right to work as our winemaker. And we started making wine and opened our doors. And, wow, it's been 20 years almost now. What happened?
Now, tell me about the wines. What wines are your favorite? What are you guys most proud of? Like, how do you approach the wines that you make?
So we've got wines that are structured in a couple different groups. We have our classic series wines, and those are wines that are very familiar varietals for people, things like Cabernet Sauvignon and Pinot Grigio, and they're priced to be good value. That was always something my dad really felt was important, was you don't want to rip people off. You want to give people something that is a good value, tastes great, and they can appreciate. And so that approachability and value has always been core to our classic series brands, and that's the brand of Sprucewood Shores that we got started with. Something unique about our winery, we are Ontario's only beachfront winery.
Huh.
So with that, we decided that a brand that identified with that fact was something that we might want to investigate for retail sales. And we developed our Beach Glass series. So those are wines that have a really unique packaging appeal and are also, designed. They're a little higher price point, but we've put a little higher level of wine in them as well. We want them to be beautiful inside and out, wines that are nice to look at and great to drink.
Now, tell me about the facility itself, because more and more, if you think about 20 years versus today, the facility itself, you're on the beach, so you already got some geography on your side. Have you built a property that people come to, and is that part of your marketing, how you go to market?
Yeah, so we've got a gorgeous facility. I'm just going to go ahead and pat ourselves on the back there. My parents picked a great spot. My dad was always into the lakefront, they had lived on the water for a while, and so we've got that beachfront property. And we've got about 52 acres. There's a marsh on one side of us, and of course the vineyard. So we've got just a really nice, beautiful property. And then, of course, the building is something that my father hammered and sawed into existence.
Come on, that's amazing.
No joke. Yeah, wow. He literally designed it, hammered and sawed it. Obviously, had contractors help him on various parts of it, but he was putting up the wood structure and et cetera. And so we've really got this beautiful old world style building with some more modern cues to it still. We have recently went through a renovation, so interior's been completely redone. It's very modern. And we also have something that we added in 2000 and 2015, a large event hall. So that's done with kind of like a wood beam type structure inside.
You do weddings and things like that there?
Very big on weddings at our
business
location.
For you?
Very big, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, we're booked every weekend, 3 days a week.
Now, how do you go to market? Talk about how you go to market. So are you in, do you look at like the LCBO? Do you go international? Do you have a wine club? Like what's been successful for your business?
So we've really found a lot of success through the LCBO to date. I think over the last, I think it was 2011 we got into the LCBO first, and it was a learning experience, but learned we did, and so we were able to successfully continue to grow our products at LCBO, and the LCBO was great about welcoming Ontario wines, and there was programs and support to be able to make it happen.
Yep.
So we continually grew our product and sales through the LCBO. We've got good distribution across Ontario. One of our products is a unique product that we produce called Warm and Cozy Mulled Wine, and that's something that no one else was really doing. We've taken that and we've brought that into a few provinces, into one American state, and continues really to grow in sales for us. So we've got that unique product that we've been able to bring out to broader markets, but I would say the bulk of our table wines are really focused here in Ontario.
Yeah, interesting. And do you have a club business? Is that an important business? The direct, the farm gate business, is that important for you?
I would say that our retail experience is important for the brand building with our consumers. It definitely develops
so
customers
when they get home,
that
they
purchase.
go to the LCBO and they go, I recognize that. I've tasted that.
But that's important too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that we're really a big club winery. We do have a club. We do have great club members, but I wouldn't say that it's the bulk of our sales.
So we're at an interesting time. The Premier was here. Great to see the Premier speaking at an event like this. You clearly have, as an industry, great political support at the highest levels in the province. So it's an interesting time, right? We've got, a lot of American competitors off the shelf in the LCBO. It feels like there's a fairly good tailwind behind the industry. There's a bit of headwinds, too. People may be drinking a little less or whatever. How are you feeling about the momentum in the business? Are you feeling positive? And what are your plans to take advantage of a bit of a tailwind?
I'll tell you, it has been a fast change. We didn't expect 6 months ago or 8 months ago where we would be, 6 months ago or even 3 months ago now.
Yeah. I mean, 6 months ago, you would have been planning for the broader commercialization and availability of wine, right? That was the marketplace change would probably be, nothing will be bigger than this, Gotta get ready for that.
Tariffs, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's amazing all the changes that have all come at once. And this is an industry that is, it's slower to change because we got to put a grape plant in the ground and then wait 5 years before we're getting full production. So
you're not rolling out cold rolled steel into an automobile in a day and a half, right? This takes many, many, many years of planning and risk, right? There's forward risk, right?
That plant is in the ground ideally for the next 20, 30 years, and that's when you'll get paid back for it. So it's a long haul.
Yeah.
But, I can say that what's happened has been a long time coming. We really appreciate the support that the government has delivered and their commitment to seeing this industry rise. And that is incredible what that will do, what it is doing. And so wineries such as myself, we are investing. I speak to other wineries, they are investing. We are all getting ready to really leverage what has happened.
Capture that momentum, right? It feels like there's momentum, right?
Capture that momentum.
Capture that
momentum.
You got it.
We're all on it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, from a diversity perspective, from a product diversity perspective, what does the future look like? Do you, if you've been making a single wine for a while, do you start to make you talked about mulled wine as an interesting product. Is there other products like that you're thinking about? Or is this like, we're going to take the core and we're going to make the core work because the environment around us is changing enough? That's where the opportunity is.
I don't think you can ever ignore the core if it's working for you today.
Sure.
You got to acknowledge where it is, and if it's continuing to be successful for you, you roll with that. But that you do have to keep an eye to the future and where the change could be and what you can possibly do with it. And one way that we're dealing with that is really evaluating what's happening with both climate change and dealing with our climate. A lot of the popular varietals are the Vitis vinifera you're all familiar with, the Cab Sauves, the Pinot Grigios.
Sure.
Everyone knows and loves those. That said, there can be other varietals that people can love if they only knew about them. So we're not just looking at, we've gone and looked at and planted varietals that we have faith can deliver for us in terms of the profitability, the sustainability vis-a-vis, the financial as well as sprays. Having a lot less spray and pesticides you really need to use because these plants have their own.
Well, they're talking about eliminating
resistance.
glyphosate, right? I mean, that just might come off the market.
We don't really use that at the winery to date. We do mechanical hoeing to deal with it, but I can imagine there's a lot of wineries that do use it, and that would be a challenge if that was removed.
Yeah.
Like the weeds can really choke the life out of your plants. So
I predict that product will go away. The lawsuits are too big. I think they're just going to
You think they'll just let it go themselves?
I think they just got. I mean, they booked like $18 billion, and it's not enough. Wow. And there's no science behind it that anybody can point to. But talk about momentum. There's a lot of momentum. I think they're going to give up on the product and cut their losses and run. I think they're going to run.
Well, it'll change a lot of farming practices because glyphosate is ubiquitous. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. Let's end up talking about marketing a little bit. So I've talked to other owners, wineries. They put emphasis some on social media, maybe some influencers, restaurants. What's your marketing mix look like? What's important for you guys?
Well, I think all the above you just mentioned there. There's no one avenue that really is going to be the only one for us because my understanding of things is that if you're not firing on all cylinders, then you're not getting ahead.
You got to pull a lot of levers, right? You got to pull a lot of levers.
That's right. So social media marketing, absolutely. Digital marketing, we're still and always will be putting liquid on people's lips.
Sure.
You need to be seen to be remembered. Mm-hmm. And so getting out there is important to us. And of course, direct sales is always key. If you're not out meeting customers and talking to customers, then they're going to forget about you. And there's always somebody who will be there. And
that's what I always used to, as a marketer, I used to worry about that more, that it's not that people think ill of you or your brand, they just don't think of you at all.
Right.
Right? It's very few people take the time to think negatively about any brand. They just forget about you, and then that's worse, right? They're just gone, right?
Yeah, I mean, what's that saying? If, there's no such thing as bad press, right? But except for no press.
Yeah, a real joy to meet you. Congratulations on your success, and thanks for joining me on the Food Professor podcast.
Appreciate you having me.
All right, we're back. Let's talk about Austin-based Whole Foods. I've been to the headquarters, the flagship store in Austin. It's quite a nice store. It's got a bar and rock band, music band. It's got like many places in Austin do. Of course, it's owned by Amazon now. They bought it a few years ago, but they publish a food trends report. And you sent me a copy of that, and I thought it was interesting. What made me laugh is a bit of maha there. The beef tallow, as if there's enough beef tallow to go around, as if that's not much more expensive. It does dovetail into your other op-ed about, this whole nonsense about canola being a seed oil and the seed oil fanatics. And some of you are listening that we know are big not fans of seed oil. So what did you think of the food trends? And there's some others there that struck me close. The tinned seafood, bespoke tinned seafood I saw in, what are they called? Haute cuisine at home. But what did you extract out of that report? And is there anything there we should
I thought
pay
it was
attention
interesting.
to?
I mean, there's a couple of categories that actually attract. Well, first of all, it's whole foods. So obviously, higher-end. So they talked about IN frozen foods. I don't know if you picked up on that one, but I thought that was interesting. And frankly, I think the freezer aisle is about to go through some major changes. I mean, let's face it. I was actually meeting with some frozen food manufacturers right here at West Lafayette, and actually a couple of weeks ago in Montreal. And I think that sector is poised to see some major changes. I think in volume, we're going to see more sales. They click the very important box of price volatility. Prices are pretty stable at the freezer aisle, and when people are careful with their money, once they go over the nutrition thing and the taste thing and going to the freezer aisle, they will go there more often. We see that in the data. People, when they adopt the freezer aisle, they go there more often. So the Whole Foods pick on frozen foods, high-end frozen food, I thought was interesting. The other one was fiber. So right now we're seeing a lot of, did you see the Kellogg's announcement yesterday saying that Pop-Tarts will have 10 grams of protein now?
Protein Pop-Tarts. And fiber.
Well, the focus is on protein. We talked about this. There's protein everywhere at Starbucks, Tim Hortons, everywhere. But I do think that the next trend will be fiber. I think Whole Foods is right on that one. And we all need fiber. And fiber is expensive. The produce section is very volatile. And I think that's going to be the next value add for a lot of different products. So you can basically have your Pop-Tart with fiber and go to the washroom on a regular basis.
Keep the pipes clean. I was just thinking the same thing.
Exactly.
It's all
about
of fiber.
Piping. Yes, you don't have to go see a plumber.
Anyways, great report. I'll put a link in the show notes. Always interesting to read what they have to say. And they're making some moves finally in Canada, by the way. They have I believe 14 locations in Canada, but they're talking now finally about closing and opening some new ones. So we see some activity happening on the Whole Food side. So we'll pay attention to that. Maybe we'll cover that in future episodes. I want to finish off on, we talked about blueberries in a previous episode and the struggle they're having with wild blueberries. There's a great article in the Globe Mail about potatoes, New Brunswick potatoes, about how they've mastered making the perfect potato for French fries, but it's been a tough season. No moisture, and it's an up down or neutral for all of this, and it got me thinking about the farmers in New Brunswick, and they will get past this, but is there a market here, and is there a sense? I want to connect two things that maybe shouldn't be connected, but the American farmers really taking it, so to speak, in the teeth with all this tariff stuff. Is there opportunities for Canadian farmers to come in behind that, or we're just talking, we're in the same boat as them with things like China? What do you think?
Well, the potato industry is a fascinating one. I think it's a very integrated industry. Farmers are well supported, and I have to think about. I have to give a shout out to McCain. McCain, I think McCain is a great company. I can't believe we've never had anyone from McCain on this pod, but I do think they champion the sector. They support farmers. They guide them. They're all about regenerative agriculture right now. And when moisture doesn't come along, they're ready. They're ready to make sure that they can produce enough potatoes, and potatoes are produced in all provinces. And goodness, there was a movie that showed you can actually grow potatoes on Mars. You can grow potatoes anywhere.
Right. Connect the fiber, and you get some...
There's the red planet, and there's the red province of PI. It's the same thing. But honestly, I do think that the potato industry is poised to do very well. There are diseases out there that can actually make the crop vulnerable, and we saw that with PI a few years ago. But overall, I actually do think that the potato farmers are very well equipped. They're innovators, and year after year, despite what Mother Nature does, they do very well, which is great.
Well, all right. Well, great episode. Let's leave it there. And we'll be back, of course, next week with lots more great interviews and the news of the week. Thanks, everybody, for listening and downloading. Great numbers this year. So I guess we're getting a few things right in terms of what you want to hear. But anything you want to hear specifically, be sure and shout out to us. You and I will be together very soon, actually, for the Coffee Association of Canada's conference.
Absolutely, it's in 2 weeks, 2-3 weeks. Yeah, it's
2-3 weeks till you and I get together again. And we've got a very, very special interview that we're doing the day before. We'll talk more about that later.
Yes,
I was writing some notes for that. Today, we are collaborating in that. Anyway, so that's a wrap on this episode. I'm Michael LeBlanc, and I am an advisor, strategic advisor, and media entrepreneur. And you are?
And I'm the food professor, Sylvain Charlebois.
Safe travels, everybody.
Take care.